Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 7 video. There are a whole bunch of WTF moments, Easter eggs, references to the books, so we will break it all down. Addressing the elephant in the room, my channel did get hacked last week and YouTube has been helping me fix things in the background, so if you notice anything weird with my channel the next couple of days, that's what's going on. It has been a week. I never cared to repeat this experience again, but thank you to YouTube and Google for helping me get my channel back. This was a very lore-heavy episode. Probably the coolest thing we saw, in addition to Sunfire finally coming back, was getting to see Helaena finally ride Dreamfire, even though it was inside a dragon dream, so we will unpack that during the video. The episode title was The Dragon in Winter, which is a reference to a couple different things, both practical in the episode and also metaphors too. A reference to both Dreamfire and Sunfire because of the winter in Helena's dream. She was seeing the long night, like the coming of the White Walkers and the Night King, but also rode Dreamfire in the vision. You could also take it as a reference to Sunfire finally recuperating, coming out of his coma and helping save Aegon. But I think it's also more literally meant to be a reference to the movie The Lion in Winter, as in like The Dragon in Winter, which is about an older King Henry II trying to establish a line of succession for himself as he gets older. You could look at that as a reference in the episode to Aemond trying to do that at Harrenhal with Alice Rivers too, trying to establish a new line of kings from their bloodline. During the tapestry, they made a couple changes. The interchangeable dead blacks and dead greens here are for being the recent big deaths in the last couple of episodes on both sides, and then to Criston Cole, who's like the last one here with the arrow sticking out of him, in the bodies of his men around him in a circle. During the opening scene, we start in the courtyard of the Red Keep in one of Helena's dragon dream visions, without knowing it's a vision right away until you actually see the doors open of their own accord. For a minute, it almost looks like she's going to hop on the horse and make a run for it, but notice the cart behind it. It's got a cage and a couple cases behind it that look like the one that Rhaenyra sent her children's dragons inside of, so this cart might be a metaphor to her sons, Aegon III and Viserys II with Daemon, that nobody has thought about in several episodes. Like, what happened to those two kids? Where did they go? Helaena was also embroidering a picture of boats being attacked by dragonfire. I couldn't tell if that was meant to be the Battle of the Gullet reference, or if that was something from the future also to do with her two sons, Aegon III and Viserys II. But either way, I think this cart is meant to reference the two of them, and then we'll follow up with them in the finale. Like, we'll find out what they've been doing the last season. Like, we haven't seen them in a long time. And it is probably not going to be something good. Most of her visions are meant to be kind of downers, like really WTF types of things. There's one that's actually kind of hopeful too. It's very much vibes of Daenerys' visions in the House of the Undying, where she sees a whole bunch of different things in rapid succession, but it's kind of like this for Helaena almost every single night. She doesn't need to go into the House of the Undying to have any of these kinds of visions. They address Alicent going to Harrenhal to kill Aemond. She asks Helaena all the big questions. Did Aemond ask you to fly Dreamfire into battle with him? And she says that she's with Dreamfire, it's too much, and she doesn't want to do it just because her visions are too much, and she doesn't like the war is mainly why. Too much death, too many bad visions, which they reference later during one of her other subsequent visions, burning all the small folk with Dreamfire. They referenced that scene during Season 1, Episode 1, where Viserys told Rhaenyra when she was younger that he thought dragons were a mistake in front of Balerion the Black Dread's skull, and get into the concept that becoming bonded to a dragon fundamentally changes your nature in a bad way, like it's not a good thing. She says Viserys did not wish to be changed in that way, so she doesn't look down on Viserys the same way that Rhaenyra and a lot of other people look down on him, as his kingship was mostly a peacetime king, and he didn't have to deal with any really terrible problems like they're dealing with now in present day with the Dance of the Dragons. And a lot of Viserys' inaction and his inability to make proper decisions also led to the Dance of the Dragons, like his original sin was marrying Alicent Hightower in the first place. Helaena then implies Rhaenyra has been changed in a bad way because of the increased number of dragons, which is right on the money. Like, Rhaenyra is definitely headed in a very bad direction. She is spiraling and just making worse and worse decisions, but also too, because of the people around her gassing her up, Mysaria definitely pours a lot of honey into her ear in this episode.
Do you think I'm worthy?
So they really want to make it feel like it's not all Rhaenyra's fault that she's starting to do all these terrible things. Rhaenyra calls Helaena sister because they are half-sisters through Viserys, and asks her all the spoiler questions like, you have dragon dreams, now tell me everything that's going to happen on the show. She tells her about the horse she saw with the cart in the Red Keep, but Rhaenyra doesn't really understand the meaning of how her dragon dreams work and expects it to be more literal, like, tell me exactly what's going to happen with Ormond Hightower and the Greens, tell me what's happening with Daemon right now, Tumbleton, the Winter Wolves, all this stuff that's going on, and Helaena has to explain to her that that's not the way that dragon dreams work. You see really crazy, opaque things that give you metaphors, and you have to interpret those metaphors, mostly to your downfall because everybody, according to George R. Martin, misinterprets prophecy to their downfall. Rhaenyra also starts spinning out, getting wilder and even more abusive with Helaena, and when Rhaenyra demands that she prove that the gods mean for her to rule and be successful, Helena's silence is basically meant to be damning her with silence. The reason why she's not saying anything is because she has not seen Rhaenyra victorious in any of her visions. She's seen Aegon return, like that's bad news for Rhaenyra. All kinds of other stuff too. She's seen the gods. She's already referenced a couple things that will be happening in season 4. We'll probably get more of that during the finale too. So for a second, it seems like Rhaenyra understands that, like, oh, that's not good. She's not saying anything. As we go back to Harrenhal and finally see Alicent showing up to kill Aemond, only to also be revealed as a dream. So they're kind of paralleling Helaena in Aemond's beginning of the episode, where both of them are inside dreams at the beginning of the episode. And I love the way that they play this so uncomfortable because you think that Alicent is here to kill him, but then it makes a hard left turn straight into twincest, calling back to that previous episode where Aemond gave her the big fat kiss that completely freaked her out. She threw up in her mouth. They start going full hardcore until mid-hump, it turns into reality and he sees that it's Alice Rivers that he's doing it with, not his mother, which actually freaks him out even more that it's not his mother. Later in the episode, Alice Rivers makes this joke at Aemond saying, "You Targaryen boys only want one thing," and that's a reference to the twincest and them being obsessed with their mothers. The other funny thing about this, in like a really messed up way, is that remember, Aemond is meant to be sort of like this dark parallel for Daemon's character. His name is an anagram of Daemon. Daemon also had a similar type of vision at Harrenhal where he was getting it on with his own mother, so he's also kind of low-key obsessed with his mother too. Right after Aemond realizes what's really going on and that it's Alice Rivers, he bolts for it. She seems kind of bummed out, like, oh, why are we stopping? She also tells him that she will have a son by him too, which I do think is steering into some stuff that they mentioned in the books. But we jump back to the Winter Wolves and the Rivermen finally arriving near Tumbleton with Criston Cole's head on a spike, 20,000 men, and they say that they're a day away, meaning the finale in next week's episode. Ormond then says he has a piece on the board, which is meant to be a reference to Ulf White at the end of the episode, so he has at least one more big dragon right now. We'll get to their meeting at the end of the episode in a second, too. There are a couple other things that they talk about because it sounds like they've been meeting for weeks now. This is not meant to be their first meeting. Daemon then goes to the Eyrie after Lady Jane sent word to him of her meeting with Rhaena recently. Notice how he walks right up to the moon door and stands on the lip without even worrying about it. He's so worried about what's happening with Rhaena and Rhaenyra finding out and what she's going to do about it. She's also sitting with someone, enjoying the company, I think, of one of her lovers. She was a lesbian in the books, but they didn't get too deep into this in previous seasons. I think this is like the closest they've gotten to like just right out, coming out and saying it. They both discuss their common problems with Rhaena because Daemon wanted her to stay secret. He's worried about what Rhaenyra is going to do, and Lady Jane is worried about Rhaenyra retaliating against her for hiding Rhaena, so she wants to inform Rhaena first before Rhaenyra can find out and then blame her for it. They don't completely close the storyline down because Sheepstealer does escape at the end of the episode, so Sheepstealer is still alive and Rhaena can still ride him at some point. In the Riverlands, Baela and Adam continue looking for Vhagar. Notice the giant pile of dragon poop that they walk by randomly. That's not random, though. It's probably meant to foreshadow something during the Battle of Tumbleton. I would not be surprised if they fling dragon poop like that at Ormond Hightower. With all of his nasal smell problems, it would absolutely destroy him. He would be useless. So poop is their secret weapon now. Baela is still worried about Rhaenyra retaliating against her because of Jace's death, blaming her for it. Adam asks for her help with he and Alan becoming legitimized, implying that he wants to propose to Baela, but they use this for a little bit of love triangle interplay because Baela thinks that Alan is the one asking to marry her because of their kiss previously, and even though she doesn't come right out and say it literally, it seems like he picks up on the idea that there might be something between his brother and Baela, and just seems kind of bummed out by that, but they don't really address that further in this episode. For the most part, I think that relationship drama between those particular three characters, I think is just meant to give them something else going on in the background because there's so much other plot happening right now with the actual Dance of the Dragons. They just want to give all the side characters something to do in the background, like, oh, this is also going on at the same time that all this crazy stuff is happening. Back in Harrenhal, Aemond is still suspicious of Alicent, worried that she might be another hallucination when she actually does show up. Her Knight and Protector is one of Rhaenyra's men. I think the idea is that Alicent is hoping that he'll be the one to actually kill Aemond, not Alicent herself. But I love the way that Aemond, being Aemond and paranoid, kills him on the spot with a Valyrian dagger. Great way to go. One of the few people on Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon that actually got killed by the Valyrian dagger. Very honorable way to go. But he doesn't kill him because he thought he was a spy. It's because he didn't want any of the secrets about the dragon eggs or the power Alice Rivers told him about to get out here at Harrenhal. So he would have killed literally anybody who rolled up with Alicent. It was a totally random death. That just meant to be the comedy of the situation. Even though Aemond's storyline this week at Harrenhal with the two mommies is super messed up, it's mostly played for comedy, just like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, WTF type of comedy. Alice Rivers greets her, totally clocking her real reason for being there, and starts working her mojo on her metaphorically, not actual magic, just messing with her all night in lots of wordplay, because they set up the idea that both the women absolutely hate each other, and they really veer into like sitcom territory with the way they get into this comedy. Back at Tumbleton, they dine with Corlys Velaryon, who they just captured, who hopes to turn to the side of the Greens and plans to use the Velaryon troops to blockade the city again. That's why he sends his finger with his ring to Alan Apple, because Alan technically controls the Velaryon men, and he's hoping he can compel Alan to help the Greens. Notice how pissed he gets at Daemon when Daemon starts getting ideas, and he points out that the Velaryon men won't be enough to help them fight the Winter Wolves and the Rivermen. Like, very practical stuff. Like, Daemon is actually being fairly intelligent here, poking all the holes in Ormond's plan. Ormond then implies he prefers being a vegetarian or even a vegan. Maybe he lives like that more frequently down in Old Town when he's not at war like this. But even though he tries to turn Corlys against the Targaryens for all of Corlys's misfortunes that have befallen his family the last several years, Corlys isn't going to turn that easily. Darren and Gawain talk about how they're going to deal with the recent turn of events, and Gawain's comments about crazy people getting too high on their own supply, dreams of glory, is meant to refer to both Ormond Hightower and Rhaenyra, who is prophecy drunk right now. No thank you to Mysaria. Mysaria is definitely not helping. Daemon wasn't helping her either, too. Both of them just seem like they've been gassing Rhaenyra up all season. Darren also introduces the idea that as king, he might be able to get the Green Army to stand down. I think they're trying to set up the idea that he'll try to sacrifice himself to stop the war. Darren's nickname in the books is Daemon the Daring, and they've called him that on the show before, but he hasn't actually earned the nickname yet, so I think they want him to earn it in the finale episode.
Who would receive a king who left his own men to their ruin?
During the small council meeting, they mostly played for comedy, with Torrhen Manderley complaining that everybody in the city hates him, and points out this is because Rhaenyra blamed him for all the city's problems in front of the realm, and he correctly clocks that he is a scapegoat, like you did this on purpose. Rhaenyra basically admits to it without saying anything, and notice his reaction to that too. It's just really, really funny. She then points out the complete chaos of the small council. Many of their important members are missing, and they just want to make it seem like they're not getting anything done, like it's just absolutely terrible. And it gets even worse when Adam and Baela tell her about Sheepstealer and her new rider that they spotted. Mysaria tries as hard as possible to throw Daemon under the bus, like she's really working for it in this episode, trying to get Rhaenyra to kick Daemon out of the Red Keep. Lots of Daemon slander going on in this episode, causing Rhaenyra to go search for Sheepstealer herself with Adam and discover the truth about Rhaena. Then on the road, Aegon and the boys run into Rhaenyra's troops who are on the way and are forced to go back to Rook's Rest to hide until they pass, with the joke being that they're actually looking for Tywin Lannister because the queen put a giant bounty on his head and people really, really love money. So it's actually nothing to do with Aegon being found out. Nobody still knows that he's out in the wild. It's just because of Tywin Lannister. Back at Harrenhal, things get properly awkward over the meal. Alice Rivers clearly hating Alicent, and Alicent clearly hating Alice Rivers, so it's just Aemond with the mommies this week, and he seems like he is the damsel in distress, and they're the two ones trying to control him, pulling him in different directions. It almost doesn't feel like a regular House of the Dragon episode, like just a normal relationship comedy with two women fighting over the same man. He correctly points out that Alicent told him to make Harrenhal his seat, so why shouldn't he stay and establish a new seat here, a new kingdom? He's no longer afraid of Rhaenyra and her many dragons because of all the dragon eggs that Alice Rivers showed him. All we need to do, mother, is just bide for time. You will wait here with us. Alicent definitely does not want to wait here with them at Harrenhal. He is very clear that he plans to have many children with Alice Rivers. Like, we will get married, we will start a new line of kings that are unsullied. I love the way he uses the word unsullied too, just reminding you of the Unsullied Warriors. Alice Rivers does everything she can to try and get Alicent to bail and go back to Old Town to House Hightower because she doesn't want to have anything to do with her. Like, she just absolutely hates Alicent. She then drops the news bomb on Aemond that Alicent is here to harm him, but he doesn't want to believe it yet because he's an idiot, which she calls him out for later. I love the comment that the Targaryen boys all want the same thing. Like I said, it's all them being obsessed with their mothers. All those Targaryen boys love keeping it in the family. Alicent's backup plan is to pull the dagger off the dead body, but then gets the idea to poison Aemond using the berries, and it actually almost winds up working were it not for Alice Rivers being there to save him. So as many bad decisions as Alicent has made on this show that have led to terrible consequences, at least she's done a couple things that were right. Back at Rook's Rest, the boys discuss what they're going to do about the army, and Aegon finally shows a backbone. He's not going to run anymore, and he's at least going to have an honorable death if he is meant to die. Like he's like, I've had enough running, I'm finally going to stand up for myself. But you love the way that Larys Strong just holds true to being the coward that he always is and just yeets out like, you know what, if you're going to do that, that's great. I'm going to see you later. I will sing your songs. I would not be surprised if they paid this off in some hilariously ironic way, especially for Larys Strong. Back near Fairhaven, the Rhaenyra subplot reaches a boiling point when Daemon catches her with Sheepstealer and forces them to land. You love the way they use dragons in this scene too. There's so much cool dragon stuff that happens over like the next 3 or 4 minutes of the show. You could tell they spent a lot of their budget on this. The dragon budget was big this season. You notice how their dragons start squaring off for a fight like a couple alley cats getting ready to rip each other to pieces, incinerate both of them in between, and they almost can't control their dragons either. She then tries to explain herself to Daemon that she just couldn't stay hidden anymore and she wants to help and she wants to redeem herself in Rhaenyra's eyes by finding and killing Vhagar. And Daemon says they can do it together. There's no way she could do it by herself, but if they had 2 dragons against 1 Vhagar, they could probably do it. He also tries to tell her about his tragic backstory. His origin story is that his mother died giving birth to him, so he's implying that when he was a baby, he was forever blamed for his own mother's death and just weighed on him heavily as a child, and it took him much longer to claim a dragon, just like it took Rhaena much longer to claim a dragon than anyone else in the family. Daemon was about 23 or 24 when he claimed Caraxes, to give you an idea. So he's trying to tell Rhaena that he actually grew up just like her, kind of the black sheep of the family that nobody liked. Then we get that amazing scene of all 4 dragons squaring off, and it turns into a knockdown, drag-out brawl between all of them, and it is vicious, with all of them just going into absolute berserk mode with no hope of controlling them. This is really meant to be a foreshadow of things to come, with the Dance of the Dragons being so Pyrrhic for the entire family. Like, there's no real actual winner, even though technically one side does come out winning at the end of the Dance of the Dragons. Really, so much bad stuff happens to both sides. So many people die, so many dragons wind up dying, that you make the reference back to Corlys Velaryon talking about the Battle of the Gold. If this is victory, then I never want to experience it again. As the others try to escape, Daemon implies he's going to finish it and tells Caraxes to kill Sheepstealer, but he is able to escape, so Sheepstealer is still alive and Rhaena can still ride him at some point in the future. Caraxes then stays to help Daemon. Back at the Red Keep, Mysaria gets called out by Sylvie, her friend who runs the brothel, who's also Aemond's friend, saying that she's gotten drunk on her own supply too, and she's now turned into one of the people she hated before, the people in power just doing terrible things. She also says that Rhaenyra is not holding court for petitioners anymore either, which actually might be truthful. It was hard to tell if she's trying to do this to Rhaenyra to help her, and she's actually hurting Rhaenyra when she thinks that she's helping her, or if this was just Rhaenyra's bad decision on her own. But as Sylvie says, it is a bad decision for Rhaenyra to stop listening to the petitioners. I think this is meant to flow with the later scene of Rhaenyra calling Mysaria out, saying that she's been giving her bad advice and trying to twist her against Daemon and all the other terrible things that she's been whispering in her ear. Then back at Harrenhal, Alicent finally poisons Aemond and almost kills him. Rhaenyra then burns the skull of the sheepherder that Daemon brought to her and has it out with him, even though she doesn't order him to be taken to the Black Cells. They imply that this is kind of the end of their closer relationship as husband and wife, and they're married only in name, because even though she feels like Daemon betrayed her, she still knows that she needs Daemon and Caraxes because of the war right now, so Daemon's going to continue to lead their army. He also admits to all of his misdoings these past several seasons, being a terrible father to Rhaena and Baela, and trying to do what he thought was best for Rhaena and for Rhaenyra at the same time. So he is being honest in this moment, even though he himself is guilty of making a lot of terrible decisions. Baela finally has a sister moment with Rhaena, who apologizes for everything, saying that she'll get a fresh start, is meant to show that she doesn't hate Rhaena and wants her to generally have a second chance at life. Like, this is not meant to be the end for her. Things can be better. You can do better. Just as Alan gets Corlys's finger and ring from Ormond Hightower to let Rhaenyra know what's happened, hoping that it's going to force Alan to do what he wants and help the Greens and turn the Valyrian troops against the Blacks. Back in Harrenhal, you love the reaction from Alice Rivers when she finds out that Aemond's been poisoned. She is not even surprised, just calls him an idiot because she knew this was going to happen. She called it from a mile away. right as Alicent tries to escape Harrenhal, thinking that she's killed Aemond. Were it not for Alice Rivers, she would have been successful. So this is her just reeling, thinking, oh my god, I've killed my son. It'll be interesting to see what Alice Rivers does in the finale with this. Maybe she tries to keep knowledge of Aemond's survival secret so that they think that Aemond is dead when Alicent goes back like, I did the deed, he's dead, and then they find out in season 4 that he's still alive.
Idiot.
You remember that Alice Rivers spent all this season trying to hide knowledge of Aemond being at Harrenhal, so she'd probably want to support the lie that Aemond is dead for real. Then we get probably one of the coolest dream sequences of dragon dreams that Helena's having on the show. First, her giving birth to Maelor, then the baby being taken away by Rhaenyra's castle guards just as she rides Dreamfire. Yeah, I was so happy about this. We finally get to see her riding Dreamfire. It gives the small folk rushing the dragon pit a huge Dracarys. This is actually meant to be a moment from what will probably be season 4. I'd be surprised if they paid this moment off of her in the dragon pit on Dreamfire with the small folk rushing the dragon pit and the dragons in season 3 finale. It just feels like there's not enough time for them to set that up. Then the scene of her having the picnic with all of her children who are alive right now, who have grown, and the white horse in the background in the countryside is meant to be a vision of what might be and what she told Alicent she wanted when Alicent said, we could run away to the countryside. What would you want to do, Helena? And she says, I would love to raise chickens. So this is meant to be like Daenerys in the House of the Undying, seeing her baby Rhaego if he had lived, but he died, and so Helena is seeing a vision of something that might come to pass, not something that will come to pass. But you also notice how the vision then turns to winter, and it's meant to be the coming of the White Walkers. The winds of winter literally blow in, so it's meant to be this ill portent. Like, even though you could have this happy ending with your family, like if you made it to the countryside, you did escape, and you all lived, and they started to grow up, no matter what, the White Walkers and the Night King would eventually come and wipe all of civilization. Reminding you that all of Helena's dragon dreams usually have downer endings. But this is probably the first time we've actually seen a scene referencing the White Walkers this season. Rhaenyra then burns the skull that Daemon gave her on the fire and goes for some comfort from Mysaria and to call her out and enjoy a little light kink play. Mysaria continues to try and throw Daemon under the bus, which Rhaenyra calls her on, but then starts pouring more and more honey in her ear, as Rhaenyra said, gassing her up, saying she's so amazing, she's going to do so great, just stick it out even longer and you can win this. And Rhaenyra starts to get off on it, and that's when it turns into full-on kink play. Tell me I'm amazing, tell me how great I am. The music they're playing over this scene is also very discordant too, like it's a downer type of track, so they want it to feel like it's a bad moment. Rhaenyra making all kinds of terrible decisions because too many people are pouring honey in her ears. Back at Rook's Rest, we get a great ending for Aegon's storyline in this episode, as he and Tywin Lannister are captured by the host trying to turn Tywin Lannister in for the Queen's bounty. They're saved by the returned Sunfire, who just Dracarys the hell out of all of them, with a great speech from Aegon that also parallels Sunfire's return. I love the way they wrote this scene. Everybody cheer for Sunfire, our baby boy is back, none the worse for wear, only as scarred as Aegon is, like they're meant to look similar, both dragon and rider. Just had to take a nap for a couple seasons, we're good now. But they really want this moment to feel like Aegon finally acting like a real adult for once, standing up for himself, for his principles, going to go out like a man finally, and then gives them the most rousing speech he's ever given in his entire life, proclaiming his identity. He referenced the Andals, the Rhaenyra, and the First Men, all people who preceded Aegon's conquest in the Seven Kingdoms. There were many wars and invasions in Westeros long before Aegon's conquest. And I love the way while his speech continues to rise, like while he talks louder and louder and gets into it, you can hear Sunfire slowly crashing through the trees in the background, and Tywin Lannister clocks it mid-speech like he's one of the few people that turns around and realizes something giant is coming. And I love the way they timed the end of the speech here to the crescendo where he says, "Behold me, righteous and glorious," just as Sunfire shows himself in the clearing, and Dracarys is everyone, and Aegon gives his little chuckle and calls him for it. Like it is on now, the boys are back. Sunfire gonna have himself a small feast of that army that he burns, and he definitely needs it too. Sunfire has not eaten in a minute. He needs some food. Then at the end of the episode, predictably, Ormond Hightower is meeting with Ulf White, referencing all their previous meetings that we just haven't seen on the show, so he's actually been trying to turn him for a couple weeks now, using Daemon's abuse against him and Rhaenyra, trying to play on Ulf's pride and desire for riches and fame very successfully. Ormond is a master at pulling people's strings like this, manipulating people, and Ulf White is not a clever person.
That you could give me a lordship and a castle.
We find out he's promised to make him a lord and give him a castle Honeyhold specifically, but Ormond gasses him up even more, saying that it'll give him an even bigger castle in lands Driftmark because he implies he's about to kill Corlys Velaryon, and he doesn't think that Alan or Adam are going to be legitimized, so he doesn't think that they will get the house. Like, there'll be nobody leading House Driftmark yet. For the most part, it is Corlys' wish that Alan be his heir, so technically Alan would take the title after Corlys dies. But part of the idea is that Rhaenyra has to help seal that deal and make it official. But the idea at the end of the episode is that the Greens now have one more big dragon. So they want to head into the Battle of Tumbleton in next week's episode, making you think like it could be anybody's game, like the Greens have a chance now. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and let me know if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video. My full episode 8 finale trailer video will post next, and then my full episode 8 video will post next week after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other House of the Dragon episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.